Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel where it's all about helping you create a life you love, one powerful decision at a time. And I have my mug, which I have been drinking out of ever since I got it. I love it so much because it helps me remember to make one powerful decision at a time. So today we're going to talk about your purpose and specifically what to do if you don't know your purpose. If you're anything like me, that could be the case because that's where I was for a long time. And the thing about it is, if you don't know your purpose, it can keep you stuck. It can keep you stuck and not moving forward and obviously not creating the life that you love because you're stuck, right? Some people I feel like are just born with knowing their purpose. And I don't want to use necessarily purpose and like occupation or job interchangeably because they're not the same thing. But there is some overlap. My husband knew from a very young age exactly what he wanted to do in life. And, I didn't. I heard this term like a couple of years ago called multi-passionate. And I guess that's what I was. There was a lot of things that I was interested in, a lot of things that I liked doing, and I enjoyed them. But for most of my life, there wasn't a specific thing that really stood out as like, this is the thing, this is my purpose, this is what I'm here to do. And as a Christian, I knew that my purpose here on earth was to glorify God. But even with that, sometimes we fall into a trap of being like, well, how? Right? Like, how am I supposed to do that? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? What are the action things I'm supposed to be doing in order to glorify God? Like, how am I supposed to be using my life? I think that many of us have this sense that there's something we're supposed to be doing and that we're not. And so we feel even kind of guilty because we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. We feel like life is passing us by. We feel like we are not fulfilling our purpose. So we feel unfulfilled, right? We feel like we're wasting time. There's just kind of this feeling of being directionless and uninspired and feeling like you should be doing more than you are. And what's interesting about that is that a lot of times it leads us to doing even less. We just kind of wait around for our purpose to just magically lightning strike us on the head or fall right in our lap or just present itself to us. In the meantime, we're just kind of going about our lives in kind of a haphazard way, not really enjoying things, not really excited about anything, wishing that we were more excited about life, really wanting that, but just really not feeling it. If you're anything like me, maybe you read some motivational books, maybe you listen to some motivational podcasts, you're watching this right now. And yet, like, you always feel like there's just something missing, right? Like, okay, great. Like, that would be great. All this stuff I could implement if I knew my purpose. That was where I was for a long time. It was like step one, like start living your purpose. Okay, well, I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is. So it can be really challenging. And sometimes those things do help, but sometimes they don't help quite as much if you feel like you're missing that piece. So today I want to talk about 3 things that you can do if you don't know your purpose. These are 3 things I work through with my clients, so I want to share them with you today. Okay, the first one, and hear me out on this before you're like, wait, hear me out on this first one. The first one is make sure you don't know what it is. And the reason I say this is because more often than not, almost all the time, whenever I'm working with a client and they tell me, I don't know what my purpose, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing in my life. I feel directionless. I don't know what to do. When we dig a little bit deeper, it's almost always the case that they do know. They are just like covering it up. And it's a lot of times it's been covered up for years. Like they have, maybe you had an idea of something you were supposed to do a decade ago or 2 decades ago or a long time ago. And you had like a spark in you, and then you kind of negated that. You talked yourself out of it, and then you've covered that up over and over and over again. Most of the time, I find that people do know their purpose. They just aren't owning it. They aren't admitting to it. Maybe they're afraid of what their friends would think or what their family would think. There's a little, voice in their head that says, you can't do this. Like, you're too old to do this. You're too old to start this thing. You should have done this a long time ago, but you're too old to do it now. You don't have a background in whatever this thing is. Like, this is one of my favorites. Who are you to be doing XYZ, right? Who are you to be a life coach? That was one of the nice things that my brain came up with for years. So you want to make sure that you really don't know what it is. You want to get super honest with yourself. And this is step 1. I find that most people are just kind of scared to own that and to step into it and to pursue what has been laid on their heart to do in this life. And there are a couple of reasons that those things get buried. And one of them is not believing that you can do it, right? And another one that I see is believing that it's selfish. Like, oh, if I pursue this, especially if I pursue this now, then it makes me somehow selfish. But what's so interesting is that a lot of the things that are on our hearts to pursue are not selfish endeavors. Sometimes we believe the lie that these things are selfish. And when we dig a little deeper, we find that actually the reason and the motive for doing these things is to serve their families, is to serve their communities, is to make a bigger positive impact on the world. And yet our brains tell us like, oh, if you do this, it's selfish. Okay, let's talk about the second common reason why people bury that purpose that's been laid on their heart. It is the you can't do it reason, or some form of that. Some form of that. Maybe it looks like it's the who are you? Who are you to do this? You can't do it. You've never done it before. Everybody's going to laugh at you and think it's stupid. All that stuff, all that chatter that goes on in our brains. And what I want to offer to you is, what if you weren't supposed to be able to do it? Like, what if you were not supposed to be able to complete this thing or do this thing or make this happen on your own? I'll share a brief story with you. A few years ago, I was asked to speak at a women's retreat, and it wasn't something at the time that I had done a whole lot of. Actually, I had never done it. And it kind of caught me by surprise. But I had decided at that time in my life that if anyone ever asked me to speak and to share my story, or I thought I could inspire or help someone, that I would do it. And so I spent some time preparing. I thought about, if there was one thing I could share with these women, what would it be? I did spend some time preparing my speech, but I am not a speaker. At that time, I had not given a speech that was my own material in probably decades. I mean, I'm thinking back to like speech class in college, and I was not good at it then. But, over the years, I have, done a little bit of public speaking, but I was usually training people on other people's material, right? On, the company's material or whatever. And so this was new territory for me. I had kind of a long drive to the location of the retreat. And so like the whole way there, I was praying and I was, just asking God for help. Beyond that, I got to the point where I was like, you know what, God, even if I look like an idiot up there doing this, I'm willing to look silly. I'm willing to look stupid if this is something you could use. And so not only did the speech go really well, but it was really powerful. I had people coming up to me afterwards and wanting to talk about it. And it was really impactful, more impactful than I could have ever imagined. And I knew whenever it was over that whole thing was not for me, because what happened while I was doing that speech and what happened in that situation was not of my personal skill set. It was not something that I could do at that time. It was not me. It was not something I could do. And I knew it. And because of that, I didn't have this sense of like self-glorification, like, oh, I'm so awesome because I gave this wonderful speech. Not at all. Like I knew that was not of my own doing. That was not of my own skill set. And that, I was doing my best, but God was definitely doing the rest. And so I think that stepping out and actually having the willingness to do things that we can't do on our own, I think it actually strengthens our relationship with God, because we learn to step out in faith and we learn to trust Him. And so we can do that over and over and over again. So just consider that thing that's on your heart that you've been burying down under there and you've been afraid to own because you're not really able to do it, or you don't think you can. Maybe you're not supposed to be able to do it on your own. Okay, so the second thing you need to do if you don't know your purpose is to do some new things. Get out of the rut. I had the privilege of actually seeing Les Brown speak live one time, and he has this saying that I love, which is where he says that the difference between a rut and a grave is just a few feet. That really stuck with me. And so if you don't know what your purpose is yet, if you're not really sure what you're supposed to be doing in this world, if you're not really sure how to use your unique talents, skills, gifts, maybe you don't even know what those are, go try some new things. Go do something different, even if it's just something recreational and fun. Maybe it's volunteering somewhere, whatever it is. Step out a little bit in faith. Maybe there's something you're just kind of interested in. It's a topic that you find fascinating or whatever. And you're like, yeah, but this isn't my purpose. Like, this isn't in line with that. Doesn't matter. Just go do some new things. When you start moving, when you start taking action, momentum starts to kick in, okay? And you will start to learn more and more about yourself. Being stuck in a rut is really, really hard. So you got to kind of get yourself out of it, even if it's by jumpstarting it with something that you think is completely unrelated to your purpose. Maybe there's an instrument that you used to play that you would like to start playing again, or an instrument you would like to play for the first time. It doesn't really matter what it is, just do something new. Remember how we talked about how a lot of times we just stay frozen and we're like waiting for our purpose to fall in our lap? That's usually not how it works, okay? We have to kind of go out and try some new things and figure some things out. Go try some new things, go have some new experiences, because that will also give you new ideas. It will reinvigorate you. It will reinvigorate you. That's a hard word to say. I feel like I'm saying it wrong. Anyway, and it will bring some excitement back in. You're moving forward. You're no longer stuck in a rut. You're doing things. You're doing something, and that momentum builds. The third thing to do when you don't know your purpose, and I actually think this is the most important one, is to start living purposefully. Even if you never have some overarching, huge, big purpose, you can do this and have an extremely fulfilled, awesome life. Sometimes I think we beat ourselves up with this idea that we have to have this big, huge purpose, right? Like this big, huge thing that we're supposed to find and live. And if we don't, like we have somehow wasted our lives or are not doing what we're supposed to do. And we have this, we inflate it into this big, huge thing when really it helps to take it way down here and just ask ourselves some simple questions. How can I live purposefully today? What would I do? How would I show up? How would I feel? What's the most important thing I can do today? What would have the most impact on myself and others for me to do today? How can I serve today? Take it way in, take it into today and see what you can do there to live more intentionally, more purposefully, to be a better steward of your time, your talent, and your treasure. So like, what can I do here? And even if it's the mundane tasks of the day, how can I bring more purpose and intention and focus into these things? Then you can look at the weeks and the days and the years and the decades if you want to. But getting really purposeful in your day is a game changer. Because whenever you can lay your head down on the pillow at night and really feel good about how you spent your time that day, really remember things that you did that day because you were present and you were focused and your mind wasn't like, you didn't have monkey brain or whatever they call it, monkey mind, and you were intentional about, setting some objectives and then following through on those objectives, that gets the ball rolling for so much. And I want you to think about this. Even if you never knew your big overarching purpose, but you lived every day in a way that was purposeful and intentional and present and focused, my guess is you will have created a life that you love. By the way, if you're ready to stop feeling like life is passing you by and start feeling really good about how you're spending your time, I want to invite you to check out To-Do List Detox. I walk you through a step-by-step process to help you take control of your time and control of your life in just 2 days. You can find out more by clicking the link in the description box below. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I hope that you have a great week and we will talk soon.